Although Godzilla vs. Hedorah wasn't as big a success as some of the previous films in the franchise, Tomoyuki Tanaka started thinking what would be the next Godzilla movie. In 1970, a story called Godzilla vs. Red Moon was created, but this wouldn't get far into the production process. This idea would be reimagined into what would become Dogora vs. Goliath to celebrate Tsuburaya Productions' 10th anniversary. Another story idea featured Gigan, King Ghidorah, a brain monster, and Megalon. Of course, we wouldn't see Megalon until the next movie. Although, these ideas would take shape and would eventually become Godzilla vs. the Space Chicken? This is my review on 1972's Godzilla vs. Gigan. As usual, this movie would be produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka, written by Shinichi Sekizawa, Akira Ifukube would return to do the musical score, and this would be Horie Nakajima's last time playing Godzilla. I'm pretty sure this is the only time in my Godzilla reviews so far that I've talked about Shinichi Sekizawa. But he wrote most of the Godzilla movies in the Showa era, so he deserves some respect. As the movie begins, we are introduced to our main character, who is trying out for a job at a comic book store, and his ideas are embarrassingly bad. With that idea not quite working out, he goes over to Children's Land to look for a job. And something just doesn't quite seem right about Children's Land. Similar to Godzilla vs. Hedorah, they made manga one of the main themes of this movie to catch kids' attention. On his way to work one day, Gengo bumps into a lady who drops some sort of tape. Later in the movie, we see him use this tape to wake up Godzilla and Anguirus. There's a bunch of boring human parts that I don't really care about, so I'll just explain them to you quickly. Basically, Gengo befriends a bunch of very odd people, and then he uses that tape he got earlier from when he bumped into the lady to awake Godzilla and Anguirus. Makes perfect sense, am I right, guys? Godzilla then sends Anguirus to go check on how things are in Tokyo. This part always confused me. Why were the military attacking Anguirus even though Godzilla himself is a good guy? It's probably just a lazy writing mistake, but still, it doesn't make sense. Gengo then goes over to try and break out one of the Children's Land's prisoners. And yes, the Children's Land Committee are not good guys. One of the members of the committee give Gengo a pack of cigarettes which they later use to track him. Right when our main characters look done for, Gengo's girlfriend comes in, who is a black belt in karate, and demolishes the villains. Right around when this is happening, Godzilla and Anguirus begin to head towards Tokyo, but it takes them forever to get there. And I'm pretty sure the only reason they did this was to boost the runtime. The crew at Children's Land, who are aliens, then summon two space monsters, King Ghidorah and Gigan. The stage is set for our battle. They use stock footage for these scenes, but they lower the exposure so it looks like it's nighttime. But that just makes it even more painful to watch. Not only did they use stock footage for this movie, but they also used a lot of stock music. Music from Mothra vs. Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, and other Akira Ifukube movies were used. For the water scenes in this movie, the Musako Goji suit was used back from 1967. When you feel like King Ghidorah and Gigan's stock footage rampage is gonna last forever, Godzilla and Anguirus finally appear and they're ready to battle. The choreography for this scene is very confusing. First all the monsters are fighting, and then they go back to just staring each other down. Besides all the stock footage, the battles are pretty entertaining, so that's a thumbs up for me. As far as special effects go, the pyrotechnics for this movie are very impressive. For the first part of the final battle, Godzilla gets beat up by King Ghidorah and Gigan, and it looks like he's met his match. Gengo and some other randos set up a bunch of TNT, which I guess is supposed to destroy Godzilla Tower. Throughout the movie, the Godzilla suit begins to fall apart, and when there's an explosion, you can see parts of the Godzilla suit fly up into the air. This would be the first time we would see Godzilla bleed, which is probably why this movie got a TV-14 rating. After Godzilla Tower is destroyed, King Ghidorah and Gigan are confused and humorously begin to battle each other. This, of course, gives Godzilla and Anguirus the upper hand, and after that, they just beat those space monsters silly. Godzilla vs. Gigan was released on March 12, 1972, and similar to Godzilla vs. Hedorah, it wasn't a huge success. but the new monster Gigan was, and would even go on to appear in Zone Fighter. In 1977, Cinema Shares would release their own version of this movie under the title of Godzilla on Monster Island. This of course meant another Godzilla movie was in order. Next up is my review on 1973's Godzilla vs. Megalon.